Hi everyone, it's Miss Drisko, and I'm going to be picking up where we left off in Wonder yesterday. So we were on chapter 4, Christopher's house. I was really bummed when Christopher moved away 3 years ago. We were both around 7 then. We used to spend hours playing with our Star Wars action figures and dueling with our lightsabers. I miss that. Last spring we drove over to Christopher's house in Bridgeport. Me and Christopher were looking for snacks in the kitchen, and I heard Mom talking to Lisa, Christopher's mom, about my going to school in the fall. I had never ever heard her mention school before. "Mom, what are you talking about?" I asked. Mom looked surprised, like she hadn't meant for me to hear that. "You should tell him what you were thinking, Isabel," Dad said. He was on the other side of the living room talking to Christopher's dad. "We should talk about this later," said Mom. "No, I want to know what you were talking about," I answered. "Don't you think you're ready for school, Augie?" Mom said. "No," I answered. "I don't either," said Dad. "Then that's it. Case closed," I said, shrugging, and then sat in her lap like I was a baby. I just think you need to learn more than I can teach you," Mom said. "I mean, come on, Augie. You know how bad I am at fractions." "What school?" I said. I already felt like crying. "Beecher Prep, right by us." "We know wow, that's a great school, Augie," said Lisa, patting my knee. "Why not Via's school?" I answered. "That's too big," Mom answered. "I don't think it would be a good fit for you." "I don't want to," I said. I admit, I made my voice sound a little babyish. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to do," said Dad, coming over and lifting me out of Mom's lap. He carried me over to sit on his lap on the other side of the sofa. "We won't make you do anything you don't want to do." "But it would be good for him, Nate," Mom said. "Not if he doesn't want to," Dad answered, looking at me. "Not if he's not ready." I saw Mom look at Lisa, who reached over and squeezed her hand. "You guys will figure it out," she said to Mom. "You always have." "Let's just talk about it later," Mom said. I could tell she and Dad were going to get into a fight about it. I wanted Dad to win that fight, though a part of me knew Mom was right, and the truth is, she really was terrible at fractions. Chapter 5, Driving. It was a long drive home. I fell asleep in the back seat like I always do, my head in Via's lap like she was my pillow, a towel wrapped around the seatbelt so I wouldn't drool all over her. Via fell asleep too, and Mom and Dad talked quietly about grown-up things I didn't care about. I don't know how long I was sleeping, but when I woke up, there was a full moon outside the car window. It was a purple night, and we were driving on a highway full of cars. And then I heard Mom and Dad talking about me. "We can't keep protecting him," Mom whispered to Dad, who was driving. "We can't just pretend he's going to wake up tomorrow and this isn't going to be his reality, because it is, Nate. And we have to help him learn to deal with it. We can't just keep avoiding situations, so sending him off to middle school like a lamb to the slaughter," Dad answered angrily, but he didn't even finish his sentence because he saw me in the mirror looking up. "What's a lamb to the slaughter?" I asked sleepily. "Go back to sleep, Augie," Dad said softly. "Everyone will stare at me at school," I said, suddenly crying. "Honey," Mom said. She turned around in the front seat and put her hand on my head. "You know, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to, but we spoke to the principal there and told him about you, and he really wants to meet you." "What did you tell him about me?" "How funny you are, how kind and smart. When I told him you read Dragon Rider when you were 6, he was like, 'Whoa, I have to meet this kid.'" "Did you tell him anything else?" I said. Mom smiled. Her smile kind of hugged me. "I told him about all your surgeries and how brave you are," she said. "So, he knows what I look like?" I asked. "Well, we brought pictures from last summer in Montauk," Dad said. "We showed him pictures of the whole family and that great shot of you holding that flounder on the boat." "You were there too?" I asked. I have to admit, I felt a little disappointed that he was a part of this. "We both talked to him, yes," Dad said. "He's a really nice man." "You would like him," Mom added. Suddenly, it felt like they were on the same side. "Wait, so when did you meet him?" I asked. "He took us on a tour of the school last year," said Mom. "Last year?" I said. "So you've been talking about this for a whole year and didn't tell me?" "We didn't know if you'd even get in, Augie," Mom answered. "It's a very hard school to get into. There's a whole admissions process. I didn't see the point in telling you and having you get all worked up about it unnecessarily. But you're right, Augie. We should have told you when we found out last month that you got in, said Dad. In hindsight, said Mom. Yeah, I guess. Did that lady who came to the house that time have something to do with it? I said. The one that gave me that test? Yes, actually, Mom said guiltily. She did. You told me it was an IQ test, I said. I know. Well, that was a white lie, she answered. It was a test you needed to take to get into the school. You did very well on it, by the way. So you lied, I said. A white lie, yes, but sorry, she said, trying to smile. But when I didn't smile back, she turned around in her seat and faced forward. What's a lamb to the slaughter? I asked. Mom sighed and gave Dad a look. I shouldn't have said that, said Dad, looking at me in the rearview mirror. It's not true. Here's the thing. Mommy and I love you so much. We want to protect you any way we can. It's just sometimes we want to do it in different ways. I don't want to go to school, I answered, folding my arms. It would be good for you, Augie, said Mom. Maybe I'll go next year, I answered, looking out the window. This year would be better, Augie, said Mom. You know why? Because you'll be going into 5th grade, and that's the first year of middle school. For everyone. You wouldn't be the only new kid. I'll be the only new kid who looks like me, I said. I'm not going to say it won't be a big challenge for you, because you know better than that, she answered. But it'll be good for you, Augie. You'll make lots of new friends, and you'll learn things you'll never learn with me. She turned in her seat again and looked at me. When we took a tour, you know what they had in their science lab? A little baby chick that was just hatching out of its egg. It was so cute. Augie, it kind of reminded me of when you were a little baby, with those big brown eyes of yours. I usually loved when they talked about when I was a baby. Sometimes I want to curl up into a little tiny ball and let them hug me and kiss me all over. I miss being a baby and not knowing stuff, but I wasn't in the mood for that right now. I don't want to go, I said. How about this? Can you at least meet Mr. Tushman before making up your mind? Mom said. Mr. Tushman? I said. He's the principal, answered Mom. Mr. Tushman? I repeated. I know, right? Dad answered, smiling and looking at me in the rearview mirror. Can you believe that name, Augie? I mean, who on earth would agree to have a name like Mr. Tushman? I smiled, even though I didn't want to let them see me smile. Dad was the one person in the world who could make me laugh, no matter how much I didn't want to laugh. Dad always made everyone laugh. Augie, you know, you should go to that school just so you could hear his name over the loudspeaker, Dad said excitedly. Can you imagine how funny that would be? Hello, paging Mr. Tushman. He was using a high, fake old lady voice. Hi, Mr. Tushman, I see you're running a little behind today. Did your car get rear-ended? What a bum rap. I started laughing, not because I thought he was being funny, but because I wasn't in the mood to stay mad anymore. It could be worse, Dad continued in his normal voice. Mom and I had a professor in college called Miss Butt. Mom was laughing now, too. Is that for real, I said. Roberta Butt, Mom answered, raising her hand as if to swear. Bobby Butt. She had huge cheeks, Mom said. Nate, said Mom. What? She had big cheeks, that's all I'm saying. Mom laughed and shook her head at the same time. Hey, I know, Dad said excitedly. Let's fix them up on a blind date. Can you imagine? Miss Butt meet Mr. Tushman. Mr. Tushman, here's Miss Butt. They could get married and have a bunch of little tushies. Poor Mr. Tushman, answered Mom, shaking her head. Augie hasn't even met the man yet, Nate. Who's Mr. Tushman? Via said groggily. She had just woken up. He's the principal of my new school, I answered. So at the beginning of this whole mention of Augie going to school, he was pretty nervous. How do you think Augie is feeling now? Do you think he's excited? Do you think he's still nervous? Do you think he is going to go to school? Do you think he wants to? Something to think about. Chapter 6, Paging Mr. Tushman. I would have been more nervous about meeting Mr. Tushman if I had known I was also going to be meeting some kids from the new school. But I didn't know, so if anything, I was kind of giggly. I couldn't stop thinking about all the jokes Daddy had made about Mr. Tushman's name. So when me and Mom arrived at Beecher Prep a few weeks before the start of school, I saw Mr. Tushman standing there waiting for us at the entrance. I started giggling right away. He didn't look at all like what I pictured, though. I guess I thought he would have a huge butt, but he didn't. In fact, he was a pretty normal guy, tall and thin, old but not really old. He seemed nice. He shook my mom's hand first. "Hi, Mr. Tushman. It's so nice to see you again," said Mom. "This is my son, August." Mr. Tushman looked right at me and smiled and nodded. He put his hand out for me to shake. "Hi, August," he said, totally normal. "It's a pleasure to meet you." "Hi," I mumbled, drooling on my hand a little, dropping my hand into his while I looked down at his feet. He was wearing red Adidas. "So," he said, kneeling down in front of me, so I couldn't look at his sneakers, but I had to look at his face. "Your mom and dad have told me a lot about you." "Like, what have they told you?" I asked. "Sorry?" "Honey, you have to speak up," said Mom. "Like what?" I said, trying not to mumble. I admit, I had a bit of a bad mumbling habit. "Well, that you like to read," said Mr. Tushman, "and that you're a really great artist." He had blue eyes with white eyelashes. "And that you're into science, right?" "Uh-huh," I said, nodding. "We have a couple of great science electives at Beecher," he said. "Maybe you'll take one of them?" "So, uh-huh," I said, though I had no idea what an elective was. "So are you ready to take the tour?" "You mean we're doing that now?" I said. Did you think we were going to the movies?" he answered, smiling as he stood up. "You didn't tell me we were taking a tour," I said to Mom in an accusatory voice. "Augie," she started to say. "It'll be fine, August," Mr. Tushman said, holding out a hand to me. "I promise." I think he wanted me to take his hand, but I took Mom's instead. He smiled and started walking toward the entrance. Mommy gave my hand a little squeeze, though I don't know if it was an "I love you" squeeze or an "I'm sorry" squeeze. It was probably a little bit of both. The only school I'd ever been inside before was Via's, when I went with Mom and Dad to watch Via sing in spring concerts and stuff like that. This school was very different. It was smaller. It smelled like a hospital. We will pick this up later.